A true small-town tale of malicious intrigue has confounded the crime community for decades and remains unsolved. The following story is the true account of what happened in this small town situated in southern Ohio. In 1976, many of the 11,000 residents of the town of CIRCLEVILLE, Ohio, began receiving hate mail on a grand scale. The poisoned pen letters contained threats, profanities, obscene drawings, and most disturbingly, personal information. They were from an anonymous sender who was obviously familiar with the recipients' families and lifestyles. The letters were all postmarked as sent from the largest city of Columbus, 25 miles away, and had no return address. The most publicised and damaging part of the hate campaign was directed at a local school bus driver, Mary Gillespie, whom the writer accused of having an affair with the local school superintendent, Gordon Massie. The letters urged Mary to cease the relationship, saying, "I know where you live, I've been observing your house, and know you have children. This is no joke. Please take it seriously." At first, Mary hid the letters from her family, but her husband Ron was also soon to receive one of the frightening messages. Ron's letter ordered him to take action to inform the school board in order to stop his wife's affair. "If not, I will broadcast it on citizen broadbands, posters, signs and billboards until the truth comes out." Ron was threatened with his own elimination if he did not carry out this demand. While Mary denied the affair, it had become obvious that the letter writer was close to their family and virtually had it under surveillance. Gossip and rumours in the town were starting to wear down the couple, who called a family meeting with Ron's sister Karen and her husband Paul Freshour to discuss solutions. Their suspicions starting to centre on Massie's son William. They decided to fight fire with fire, sending him similarly vexatious letters claiming to know that he was responsible and ordering him to desist. This seemed to work, as the letters stopped for a few months, until August the 19th, 1977, when Ron Gillespie answered the phone and reacted with fury to whatever the caller was saying, possibly recognising their voice. Mary was away at the time, and Ron quickly told the children that he was going out to confront the vitriolic stalker once and for all. He seized his gun before driving away in his red and white pickup truck and was never to return. Later that evening, Ron was found deceased in his truck, which had crashed into a tree at an intersection at the end of the street. His gun had discharged one bullet, which was never found. Although he was known to be virtually teetotal, and his children insisted that he had appeared sober on the day, the cause of Ron's passing was deemed to be an accident due to excessive alcohol. His blood reading had been 1.5 times the legal limit. Other mystifying factors were that Ron had crashed moments after leaving his house, and no gunshot sound had ever been reported. Even more bizarrely, the CIRCLEVILLE letter writer was obviously unhappy with the Pickaway County Sheriff's ruling of Ron's accidental demise. The malicious letters to town dwellers started up again, accusing Sheriff Dwight Radcliffe of a cover-up and demanding a more rigorous investigation. A compounding factor was that Ron's truck had been crushed and disposed of within days, precluding any further examination. The harassment campaign against Mary Gillespie also intensified, particularly after Massie divorced and the pair started seeing each other, although both were adamant that their relationship had not started before the letters. By 1983, the CIRCLEVILLE letters were a common occurrence, even being sent to Mary's 13-year-old daughter, Tracy, and extending to crude signs placed along her bus route. On February the 7th of that year, while driving the school bus, Mary noticed a sign threatening the life of her daughter, and in angry frustration stopped and went to remove the sign. To her horror, she found that it was attached to a string which was set up to trigger a concealed gun aimed at her. The makeshift booby trap had failed to discharge. Mary took the gun to police, who found that someone had attempted to scrape up its serial numbers, but forensic tests revealed that it was owned by Paul Freshour, who was then placed under investigation by Sheriff Radcliffe. Freshour was recently divorced from Ron's sister Karen and had been awarded the family home and custody of the children, with Karen now living in a trailer in Mary's yard. He maintained that he had stored the pistol for years in his garage, never checking or noticing that it was gone. Sheriff Radcliffe then showed Freshour the letters Mary had received and asked him to emulate the handwriting. He apparently believed the samples to be a good match, as both sets of evidence prompted him to charge Freshour with the attempt on Mary's life. Freshour went to trial, and there were many flaws in the prosecution's case. These included his having a strong alibi for the day the sign was found, and a lack of corroborating factors such as fingerprints. In fact, footprints had been found where the sign had been left, which was not his. Added to this was the wrongly administered handwriting test and conflicting witness and forensic evidence. Freshour had even passed 3 polygraph lie detector tests and a voice stress test. Despite the vindicating factors, he was judged guilty and sentenced to up to 25 years in prison. Sheriff Radcliffe was shocked to discover that the CIRCLEVILLE writer was still keeping very busy mailing his pernicious messages from Columbus, and decided that Freshour was somehow sending out the letters from his prison cell in Lima, 90 miles away. Despite Freshour then undergoing 24-hour surveillance and solitary confinement, with all writing equipment withheld, the letters continued. The bitter irony was that he had never been charged with the letter writing campaign, but there was implicit blame in his treatment. Despite being a model prisoner, he was refused parole in December 1990, after which he even received his own anonymous letter of sadistic ridicule and taunting. Now, when are you going to believe you aren't going to get out of there? I told you 2 years ago, when we set them up, they stay set up. Don't you listen at all? Freshour was finally released in May 1994 after 10 years of incarceration. He maintained his innocence and requested unsuccessfully that police reopen the case. 6 months after his release, Freshour enlisted the support of investigative journalist Martin Yant, who began preparations for an unsolved mystery story on Lifetime television. While working on the documentary, the producers received an anonymous letter which warned, "Forget Circleville, Ohio, do nothing to hurt Sheriff Radcliffe. If you come to Ohio, you El Sickos will pay." It was signed the Circleville writer. Despite the implied threat, the show went to air, with the narrator commenting, "We don't scare easily," and highlighted the poor policing techniques and lack of evidence in Freshour's conviction. It showed how witness statements of others had been ignored, such as that of another school bus driver. She had seen a man with sandy-coloured hair near where the booby trap sign had been left, who was driving a yellow and black El Camino. Coincidentally, a male co-worker of Mary's, whose romantic advances she had rebuffed, had a brother who drove the same car. One theory continued to be that Massie's son William, or Bill, had started writing the letters in an attempt to protect his parents' marriage, as some of the letters were signed with a W. Another theory was that a different person, such as Karen, Freshour's embittered ex-wife, had set him up and written the second wave of letters. The sandy-haired man looked like a boyfriend, and she had a relative with a similar car. These and other various leads had never been followed up by police. Paul Freshour passed away in 2012, still proclaiming his innocence, which he had documented on a small website with astonishing allegations of suppressed information surrounding the whole case. He claimed to have learnt that many of the CIRCLEVILLE letters had contained arsenic and were therefore attempts on their recipients' lives and technically crimes. To have recorded them as such would have escalated drastically sparsely populated Pickaway's official crime rate to levels on a par with New York City or Los Angeles. This, Freshour contended, would have precluded Sir Radcliffe from getting off the coveted appointment of President of the National Sheriff's Association. Freshour has seen a whole room filled with the thousands of Circleville letters when undergoing his handwriting test. On his website, he claims that the contents of most of the letters were secret because the authorities were protecting prominent citizens, including his prosecutor and the county coroner, whose alleged dark activities would have been exposed by publicising them. He claims many anomalies in the court case, that he was prevented from speaking in his own defence, and that the handwriting expert employed by his defence team and access to the letters were restricted by the prosecution. He claims that Karen was to appear for the prosecution but was held back due to fear that she would disclose corruption under questioning, and that she sent the threat to Unsolved Mysteries. Also that Mary Gillespie herself may well have constructed the gun booby trap, as she was the only one to see it, and there was a gap of 2 hours before she took it to the police. Freshour's statement is a long and enthralling read, which names names and makes some chilling accusations of wrongdoing and cover-ups in the upper echelons of law enforcement in Pickaway. It's worth a look if you're interested and would like to make up your own mind about this case. According to Freshour, the letters continued for at least 26 years from before, during and after his period of imprisonment, and with the cover-ups he alleges, they may be continuing to this day. The perpetrator has never been unmasked and brought to justice.